you are in this room if you are headed into a faculty directed program or an internship abroad. Now, I recognize that technology isn't perfect. So if the breakout room wasn't working and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to get where I need to be, don't worry. We will make sure we cover more broadly what might be relevant for you as well. Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to my colleague, Michael Science, and he is gonna walk through some more specific information related to faculty-directed programs and internships.
Alrighty, y'all. Welcome to the faculty-directed program and internship session. Again, like Carolyn mentioned, I'll speak a little bit more broadly for the students who were unable to actually make it to the session for affiliate, direct, and exchange programs. So yeah, just bear with us and we'll get you the information that you specifically need. And then towards the end, many of you will start to ask questions in the chat. Let's wait until the end and we'll try to get you covered and get all the answers or all your questions answered, okay? We could go to the next slide. Thank you. So when it comes to all our faculty directed programs and really in general, when it comes to all our programs, whether you're participating in an affiliate, direct or exchange program, one thing that we want to cultivate while we're abroad, and this is really as a result of the pandemic, is really this culture of care. You know, on campus, we always hear that vols help walls, and that's essentially the same philosophy we want you to implement while you're abroad. You know, given the nature of what's happening with the pandemic and just other situations around the world. But as it relates to the pandemic, we want you to really conduct a daily self-screening. I'm sure that my colleague, Sean, talked about this earlier in terms of you knowing yourself best, right? So make sure that, you know, daily while you're abroad, whether you're there for a short period of time, a long period of time, you're really taking time to assess your overall well-being, checking for different signs and symptoms, you know, not only, you know, related to COVID-19, even though that's the big elephant in the room, but for other, really for other symptoms that you might have, let's say for the flu or the cold or some other type of illness. We do expect and we do strongly recommend that our students continue to practice physical distancing. So social distancing, you know, wearing a mask. One thing that you'll notice that in different parts of the world, they've just taken a different approach to the pandemic, which means that a lot of individuals abroad are still wearing the masks, still require their citizens to wear the mask, and that same expectation is going to be the same of you. And, you know, we realize that you're going to have the opportunity, you know, to attend different events, you know, to have the experiences that we want you to have during a study abroad experience, but we want you to also be cautious and always try to avoid crowded areas or large crowded areas during the program. And again, these are just strategies or mitigating strategies that we want you to pay attention to, just because we know that, you know, this will mitigate that risk of you contracting COVID or any other illness as well. We could go to the next slide. So this is really specifically for our faculty directed programs, and this is something that's really important and something that your faculty members will really talk to you about is no non-program related guests will be allowed to participate in any program activity or stay overnight in the accommodation that's been outlined by the program. And again, you know, this is to protect our, you know, the group, your fellow peers, and as well as our faculty members. So just as you go into this experience, you want to make sure that you have this expectation nailed down. And, you know, that also includes no independent overnight visits by, you know, by other individuals that are non-program participants. And again, you know, it's not to over-regulate, you know, your study abroad experience, but really to protect you know, one another, whether that be your peer or your faculty member. So we just want you to, you know, keep that in mind. Next slide. So to clarify that, there is one question that came through the chat, just to answer it real quick, whether a participant is able to stay in a different hotel, if they had a free weekend, you are able to stay in a hotel, in a different hotel that hasn't been arranged by the program. But we're really, I was specifically talking about, the accommodation that's part of the formal study abroad program, where you can't have any overnight guests or any non-program participants in that type of housing. Now, if you decide to go, out and about on a free weekend, that's something that you can go right ahead and do as well. So last but not least, taking care of yourself, I've already talked about this, is just extremely important, as you prepare for your study abroad program, continuing to look out for your peers. And another thing is, you're going to have a lot of support. You're going to have a lot of different, you're going to have a lot of structure for the time that you're abroad. So you know yourself best. So just know that, if you're struggling, if you have any concerns, if you have any specific questions, that you always reach out to your program leader. For those who are in the room who aren't participating in a faculty-directed program, you're also going to have a lot of different resources and support structures abroad. So make sure that you do reach out to your affiliate, you do reach out to your host institution, because these individuals are going to be the ones that are going to be able to answer the questions that you have, listen to the concerns you have, and really assist you and support you during your program. For faculty-directed programs, your program leaders are always going to be available 24/7, and then the same for individuals who are on other types of programs. So just make sure that you are, bringing concerns to your faculty leaders' attention, that you're asking questions, and that you're really advocating for yourself throughout the duration of your program. Next slide. So really transitioning into some additional reminders, and this is for all participants, again, regardless of program type. For students who are participating in a faculty-directed program, we do expect all our students to have most, if not all, their portal requirements. So the requirements, the post-decision requirements within your Vols Abroad portal done by Friday, May 6th, 2022. And again, some of these items, include a copy of your passport, submitting a copy of your flight itinerary, reading some additional signature documents. We do have 2 specific questionnaires related to your emergency contacts and a health and wellness questionnaire. So if you're able to get those done by Friday, May 6th, that would be great. There might be some individuals in the room, at least those who are participating in an affiliate exchange or direct program, that might not have access to these portal requirements yet. And that's because we might not have moved you into that next phase because you're not at that point. So just make sure that at least at this point in time, these are items that you should keep on your radar and that you need to complete. For those students who are participating in non-faculty directed programs, there is a little bit more flexibility, but if you get the opportunity to complete your Vols Abroad portal requirements, soon, that's something that we encourage you to do and just not to put it off, okay? The second point is really important. I think at least at this point in time, at least for those students who are studying abroad in summer, if you do not have your passport, this is something that we need you to communicate to our office directly and yesterday, because if you don't have your passport, we'll have to have a serious conversation because it is taking a while, for students to get their passport. So that's just make sure that's something that you do not want to hold off on as well. And I'm going to skip the reading about your host destinations. I know that that's something that we've covered today, but this is really for our faculty directed programs, the course registration. So for our faculty directed programs, you're enrolling for courses as if you were here on campus. So make sure that if you haven't registered for your class, or if your faculty member hasn't registered you for your class, make sure that you do that as soon as possible. And if you're unsure of whether you should register for your class or whether your faculty member is going to do it, reach out to our office, reach out to your faculty member, and we'll make sure to put you in the right direction. For our non-faculty directed program students, we enroll you in a study abroad placeholder course. This is our transfer credit students. So that's something that we do, but we only do it once you've completed most, if not all, items within your Vols Abroad portal. So just make sure that, again, if you have any questions, just reach out to us. And we could go to the next slide because we'll talk about financial aid disbursement dates at a later point in time. We could go to the next one. So all students are participating in a study abroad program. So we're putting the study in abroad. So the same expectations that we have from our students academically here at UT are the same expectations that we have from you while you're abroad. So these are academic endeavors, at least for our faculty directed programs. As you can see, you are going to get University of Tennessee credit, which means that, it is going to affect your GPA, at least if you're participating in a faculty directed program. So there is the same rigor that's associated with all our study abroad programs that you would find here. So you just want to make sure that, you're going into this experience knowing that it's an academic experience, but that it's also an experience that's going to allow you to have fun while putting those academic responsibilities first. For anybody who's in the room, just to talk real quickly about our affiliate and direct or exchange programs, you all will be receiving transfer credit. And as you can see, it's not calculated into your overall cumulative GPA here at the University of Tennessee, but it is factored into your Hope Scholarship if you receive the Hope Scholarship. And one thing that you always want to keep in mind if you're on a transfer credit program, like an affiliate, direct, or exchange, is that the grades you actually earn abroad do show up on your transcript. They're just not calculated into your overall GPA. So that's just something that you want to keep in mind as you're going into your study abroad programs and looking at the expectations. So just a little bit more about academic expectations. Again, similar to being abroad is not any different than what you would find here at UT. So it's your responsibility to understand how the course that you're taking abroad is going to count towards your degree, how the grades are going to count towards your UT and Hope GPA, and then just, doing the normal things that you would hear, right? You're still going to be expected to attend class, participate in all program activities, and then follow academic procedures as outlined by your faculty director or your program or your host institution. So that's the importance of being able to read your full course syllabus once an updated copy is provided to you, just so that you could really understand what's expected of you for the time that you're abroad. And these are just some general tips that we've been encouraging our students to think about a little bit. Again, it seems like academics have maybe seemed a little odd as a result of the pandemic. You all have had courses virtually, hybrid, and now that we're in person, sometimes it might be a little harder to engage, but ways to be academically successful is to always participate in class, engage with your faculty member, and make sure that you're completing the assignments as necessary. One thing that you'll all notice is it's a study abroad program, so the relationships that you get to create with your faculty members, or really your program, is a little different than what you would find here on campus. So that's a really good opportunity for you to to excel in the classroom and to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success. Some of the course content might be a little different too abroad and how it's communicated to you. So you just want to make sure that you understand the different formats, the different platforms, or the different tools that your faculty members are going to use. And again, that's really outlined for you in your course syllabus. So just make sure that you're starting to understand that. One point of importance that we want to talk to you all about is we still expect all our students to respond or read and respond to all emails on a regular basis. So make sure that, if you're participating on a transfer credit program, you might be given a different email at your host institution, that we still expect all our students to respond to their Vols Abroad email, because sometimes our office might be reaching out to you, maybe your faculty member will reach out to you. So you just want to make sure that you're doing that. okay? So transitioning over to financial aid and scholarships. So for mini-term and summer programs, students typically, this is typically who want to use financial aid and scholarships must at least enroll in at least 6 credits, but that's specifically to the HOPE. So if you all want to use a HOPE scholarship for the summer, it is a requirement for you to take 6 credits as part of your study abroad program. Now, other forms of financial aid and scholarships, such as your Pell Grant, maybe loans, don't require you to take a minimum of 6 credits. That's just unique and specific to the HOPE scholarship. But if you wanted to use, let's say, the Pell Grant, you could only take 3 credit hours. And one thing to keep in mind is they don't give you the full amount. They usually prorate the amount based on the number of credits that you're taking. So if you have any questions, prior to you going on your program, One Stop is the best resource that you could go to so that they could walk you through the financial aid and scholarship package that you have and how that could apply towards your study abroad program. Alrighty. So here, this is the financial aid calendar, and this is for programs where your fees are billed here at the University of Tennessee. So for our faculty directed programs, that might encompass a program fee, that might encompass your tuition, a global administrative fee. And for our non-faculty directed programs, that might encompass insurance as well as, $175 global programs administrative fee. These are the due dates based on the term that you're going. So if you're participating in a mini term program, the costs of your program will be soon added to your MyUTK account. But what you want to remember is that the payment due date is by May 17th by 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For students who are participating in a summer program, Summer 1, Summer 2, full summer, payment is due by June 7th, 2022 by 4:30 p.m. So just make sure that you write these deadlines down and that you make payment, prior to the due dates to avoid any late fees. For any students who receive the CGE Study Abroad Undergraduate Scholarship or expect their financial aid and scholarships to disperse, that deadline or the date in which that happens, is going to be June 10th, 2022, okay? Next slide, please. So just talking a little bit about money management. Many of you have probably already started to research, have these conversations with your faculty members. There's different ways in which you can start to do research about how to manage your money abroad. One of those ways is using an online currency conversion. One that we really like is oanda.com. The second point is consider obtaining cash in local currency before you actually depart. It all kind of depends on, whether that's available. And the last point is really researching costs of living in your host institution and establish a spending budget. I think the more that you can do when it comes to managing your buddy or managing your money on the front end, I think will certainly lead you to success. So next slide. So transitioning to behavioral expectations, these transitions seem a little abrupt, but they're really important because we just want to make sure that we're covering all this information with you all. And I think that this kind of goes to the academic expectations. Again, just because you leave UT, it doesn't mean that we're not going to have the same expectations of you academically. And then the same is going to happen with your behavioral expectations. So when you go abroad, you remain a UT student. So, you always want to keep in mind that you're first and foremost, that you're an ambassador to UT, to the state of Tennessee, and to the US, right? So every impression you leave on your host country, whether that be a local or someone, visiting the country that you're in, that's the mark that you're going to leave on them. So every positive impression you leave on, your host countries, what they're going to remember an American for, but every negative impression the same, right? So you just want to make sure that you do take that to heart as you're having this experience. But if worse came to worse and there were any students violating any behavioral expectations that we have of you, which could include endangering personal safety, you can undergo conduct sanctions here at the University of Tennessee. In the worst case scenario, you could be sent home from your program, and God forbid that you suffer any type of legal consequences, because there's little that the University of Tennessee could do if you suffer any type of legal consequences abroad because of bad behavior. This is very rare, but it's something that we have to cover with you. And all of you have consented to the behavioral agreement within your Vols Abroad portal. So this is specific to a faculty directed program, but each and every one of you have received this information already. So make sure that before you depart, that you do log back into your Vols Abroad portal and that you read this information carefully. But just to point out a couple items that I think are extremely important, just to highlight real quick, and that's really the first point that you see here, and really accepting unconditionally the authority, right? And this is something that you've consented to of your program faculty director, or the program that you're going to. So just always keep in mind that they have ultimate authority, right? And they can make the decision of sending you back, because of different types of behavior. And the last point that I just want to talk to you all about is, again, what I kind of talked about in the last slide, is just really conducting yourself in a manner that's going to allow students, future UT students, to have the same opportunity. So just make sure that you really read through this and that you understand and that you know the expectations that we have of you from a behavioral standpoint. Next slide. So last but not least, and then we'll open it up for questions because we are getting to that time, is the opportunity to stay global. So, while you're abroad and once you actually get back from being abroad, we want you to follow us on our social media platforms. So one thing that we always like to do is we like to highlight our student experiences, show the rest of campus, other people who are following our social media platforms, the types of experiences you're having on our study abroad programs. So you can tag us in your photos. If you're willing to do a takeover, our marketing and outreach coordinator is always willing, to feature our students in that way. And then after you've come back from abroad, we encourage all our students to apply for a peer advisor position, join our study abroad alumni organization, and then just participate in different program activities that will allow you to stay global in the sense. So make sure that once you get back from being abroad, that the Programs Abroad office is still here to offer you different program opportunities and to really allow you to unpack your study abroad experience, not only from a personal standpoint, but also from a professional and academic one. So make sure that you do stay in touch. Here's a QR code if you want to scan this. We have created some postcards that you could pick up for free in the resource room. So we want you to go abroad, send us your postcard, and you can send it to that address there. So make sure that you do stay in touch. So with all that being said, I know we covered a lot of information from academics to financial deadlines to scholarship opportunities. So we'd like to give you all the opportunity to really answer some questions, or to really ask some questions, and we can answer those for you. All right.
So we already have some, Michael, most of them financial aid. Okay. Here goes the first one. One Stop told me, this is the student, that we might have to fill out a form specific for our program for financial aid. How do we find out about this?
Yes. So everybody listen very carefully. This is only for a transfer credit program. So if you're participating in an exchange, in an affiliate program, or a direct program, this only pertains to those students. So this doesn't pertain to our faculty directed programs. So though that form is called the request for transfer credit form process, and that's located within your Vols Abroad portal. And that request for transfer credit form has to be completed. The University of Tennessee, because of course program of study, has to know that the courses that you're taking abroad will help you meet requirements of your degree before they're willing to disperse your financial aid and scholarship package. So again, if you're on a direct exchange or affiliate program, you want to make sure that you're completing that form and getting that done as soon as possible, and certainly prior to your departure, to ensure that you're getting your financial aid and scholarships dispersed. For faculty directed programs, because you're enrolling for classes here on campus, that's happening.
Here's what I found.
That's happening automatically.
Okay, the next question. If we already have the Pell and Hope, do we need to do anything additional, or will they automatically transfer?
So that depends again on the program type that you're on. So really good question. Again, if you're on a faculty directed program, that will happen automatically. But if you're on a transfer credit program, the university will only release your financial aid and scholarships if you have a completed request for transfer credit form.
Okay, the next question. What if we received scholarship for mini term? Is it the same disbursement date?
It is, yes.
Okay, the next question. So we pay, I'm reading them exactly how they wrote it. So we pay for it, then if we have the scholarship, will we get that money back?
Yes, so with any experience, once you've seen that your billing for your program has been posted to your account and you make the decision, to pay for it up front, and you have a scholarship, right, that is dispersed later, then essentially it's going to happen like it happens here on campus, and that money will be directly deposited into your bank account. So
Okay.
essentially, if you have a surplus on your account, that's what will happen.
Okay, I just saw a question twice from two different students. I never received notification of a deposit being due. A lot of confusion with this. Was there supposed to be one?
Yeah, so this is for faculty directed programs only. So we know the Programs Abroad Office knows that we communicated to you initially that there was going to be a $750 deposit. However, in your official acceptance letter, we outlined that $750 deposit would no longer be billed to you in early April. So if you're on a faculty directed program, the balance of your program fee, the $175 administrative fee, is going to be charged in one lump sum. So there's going to be no deposit.
Okay, the next question. If I'm enrolled in a deferred payment plan for normal spring and fall semesters, do I still have to set up a deferred payment plan for summer, and how do I do that?
Yes, so I would always play it safe and just have a conversation with One Stop, so that if you have deferred payment plans, or you want to, set up a deferred payment plan, that you have a conversation with One Stop to make it happen. So don't assume that it's going to happen automatically.
And that was the last question, Michael.
Oh, wow.
So far.
Well, really good questions. I know that we're past our time at least by 3 minutes. But we're our office, so if you all want to head out, you could begin to head out of the rooms, but the Programs Abroad office staff members will remain here to answer any last minute questions if you all had any.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Safe travels.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm still a little bit confused about the COVID test to come back, because I know we have to have it to come back into the United States. And I've spoken to my faculty member, and she told me to ask here. So I don't think that she has anything planned for us to get it. So would you recommend that I get one of those tests that you can get on the computer with a a doctor or a physician, and they you take it with them?
Which program are you participating in, Hannah?
The Freiburg mini term.
Or urban sustainability?
Yeah.
Yeah, so one thing is that we work with a very close service provider called IES Abroad, who you've been interacting with, and they're actually going to facilitate, the testing, right? So a day prior to your departure back to the United States, they'll take you to a place where you can actually, where you could get tested. Now you'll pay for it, but they'll arrange it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are two students asking, and I want to make sure before I send an answer. They're asking about the PowerPoint, if we're going to send it via email or if it's going to be provided in our website.
Yep. So for those ends asking questions about the PowerPoint, we will send out a recording, and then we'll also send out a PDF document, at least of this section of the PowerPoint. So you'll have access to the recording and you'll have access to the PowerPoint, and we'll provide you with next steps in terms of what you have to complete moving forward.
Any other questions? Oh, there's one more. Will we get credit for just joining Zoom, or do we need to send in our net ID to get credit for being here? Oh.
No, so if you, we'll look at our records, and if you stayed here for the hour and a half, right, there's several steps that you have to complete as part of the pre-departure orientation. One is attending the session, two, completing a quiz.
Okay.
And then if you attended the session, being here for a specific required of time. So we have access to your UTNet ID based on you logging into the system.
It looks like that's it, Michael. Let me see if I can see anything. Because
One more just popped in.
oh, one more. I'm on a faculty directed program and I need to provide verification for courses I will be taking abroad to receive scholarship benefits. How can I get the info for these courses for credits to apply to my funding, since the transfer credit form is not applied to non-faculty directed programs?
So Hudson, so that's a really good question. That should really be, One Stop should be able to see that information based on your UTK academic history, if you are participating in a faculty directed program. So really that's the verification of you taking the courses that you need to take. You could unmute yourself if you feel comfortable. Have you had a conversation with World Strides? Not World Strides, with One Stop already?
No, I haven't talked to One Stop quite yet.
Yeah.
But it's for the Finland study abroad, where we're registering for the 2 courses here and then 2 courses in Finland.
Oh yeah, Hudson. So you're unique to this situation. So I'm working with Professor Wall and One Stop to make sure that that happens for the Finland Architecture Institute. So don't worry about that. We'll get that verified for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Hudson.
So Michael, a couple of students are asking, I guess some students joined late.
Okay.
They thought it had started at 6. And they're wondering what they need to do to get credit for the entire orientation since they came late.
So we'll provide you with next steps in terms of what you have to do to make up the orientation. So just monitor your email and we'll reach out to you in terms of what you have to do to make up the orientation. Okay.
Okay. Yes. One more question. For the mini term, do we have to pay the balance before we leave for the trip, or can we wait and let the scholarship cancel it out?
Well, for mini term programs, you just want to make sure that you're making payment for the program by that payment due date, which is May 17th, 2022 by 4:30 p.m. So usually if you're using any type of financial aid and scholarship package, or you're receiving the CGE scholarship, that will show up in your MyUTK account and taken away from your overall program balance, unless you receive a significant scholarship, right? Which isn't the case for most students. But you want to make sure that you pay the balance by May 17th. Okay.
And I believe that was the last question, Michael.
Okay.
Scrolling down. Yeah.
I have a question.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if my Zoom is logged in with my UTK account. So will I still get credit for being here for the whole time?
What's your first name, Jay?
Jalen, Jaylyn.
Okay, so we could write that down. You know, if you stayed here a specific period of time, if you didn't log in with your UTNet ID, we could write your name down, you know, so that we can ensure you get the credit for it.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jalen. Mhm.
And Albriana got her name.
Okay, that's
Okay.
good.
Thanks, Albriana.
Okay, perfect. If there are no other questions, I think that wraps it up. Thank you all who hung in there. We really appreciate you, and we hope that you got some good information. If other questions pop up, you know where to reach us, and we're happy to help you. But overall, we're just so excited that you'll be heading out the door and on a plane after all this time. So thanks so much for sticking with us, and we're so excited for you. Cheers.